Now we have Bob Brown coming up from the Pan-African Roots and All African Peoples Revolution.
We want to thank you for coming out here today. We especially want to thank Chief Billy Tayak and the Piscataway Indian Nation in Tayak Territory and the American Indian Movement in this region, the Mid-Atlantic region, and throughout the United States and indigenous people throughout the hemisphere. There are basically two topics we could have spoke about today. Because of time, we will only do one. To give you a kind of an introduction to the beginning one, God made no slaves in the womb.
Push it out.
God made no slaves in the womb, which was an 1845 abolitionist slogan, where the abolitionist movement was moving for one of the last major wars to help abolish slavery. God made no slaves in the womb. How could a pope enslave us? How could a conquistador, a banderante, a pilgrim enslave us? Not just Columbus, but Prince Henry the Navigator, Francis Drake. For more than 25 years, the various Presbyterian organizations in North America and in Scandinavia have sent delegations after delegations of indigenous people from the Western Hemisphere, including Chief Oil Lions and some of the Onondaga nations, to go to Rome to demand that the Pope repudiate and repeal the papal bulls of discovery, the papal bulls of demarcation, the papal bulls of colonialism and conversion. That struggle is intensifying. The struggle to eliminate and to remove the Columbus statues in every corner of the world. There is even a Columbus statue in Cairo, Egypt, a Columbus statue in Tokyo, Japan. Those statues must come down, But not just Columbus's statue. All racist political statues in every corner of the world must and will come down. We're writing a book about this. We're behind. We're struggling with it. We're trying to move forward. But let me quickly talk about the other topic. This represents, this event represents an event within a more than 60-year continuum. We inherit, we continue the revolutionary tradition and practice of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. What is not known, between 1962 and 1968, there were at least two indigenous people. Buffy St. Marie, one of the biggest indigenous entertainers and folk singers in history, and a man named Hunter Bear, whose family goes back to the Haymarket struggles and whatnot. But also two Chicano women, Maria Varelia and a woman named Elizabeth Kiki Martinez. This is a 60-year history that we are continuing. People do not know our history, That is one indication of it. If we take just the year 1967 and 1968 as an example, in January of 1967, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee said Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael to San Juan, Puerto Rico. And SNCC signed a treaty with Juan Marie Bras and the Movement for the Independence of Puerto Rico and the Federation of University Students. When they came back into the United States, the SNCC office in New York City and the SNCC, the MPI office in New York City began a 2-year process which culminated in the emergence of the Young Lord organization. Obi Adun, he is on this program deliberately because Obi Adun is one of the original last poets, worked with a man named Felipe Luisiano, who founded the Young Lords of New York City. Fred Hampton Jr., I founded the Black Panther Party in Chicago. I put Fred Hampton in the position, and if he'd have listened to me, he would be alive tonight. I put Bob Rush in it, and if he'd have listened to me, he would not be a congressman tonight. When Stokely Carmichael came back to the United States, I became, through an accident of history, at 19 years old, the Midwest director of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee office in Chicago. And one of my first assignments was to go to the north side of Chicago and meet a man named Oped Lopez with the Latin American Defense Organization. The Young Lords Gang was the youth wing under that one. They transformed themselves into the Young Lords Party. We have a history. We have a history of working with Chicano Latino forces. In October of 1967, El Tigre, Reyes Lopez Tijerina, and the Mexican Land Grant Movement, and Thomas Binyaka of the Hopi Nation convened a conference in Albuquerque, New Mexico. They invited the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee to attend that conference. Featherstone, Ethel Minor, Mikasa Ricks, who were called in, Freddie Green Biddle, and Maria Vavelia. These are SNCC people who went to that conference. And of that 4 or 5 people, 3 or 4 of them became the first Central Committee of the AAPRP. Maulana Rangaringa, representing the US organization, was there. They signed a treaty between the African and Indigenous and Hispanic and Latino movements in 1967, which continues to exist today. This is a history, a more than 60-year history of struggling to build progressive and revolutionary relationships with Indigenous and Hispanic and Latino forces. We are extremely proud, extremely happy to be here. Thank you.